So, hey everybody, welcome to the channel. This is a new thing. Don't know what it's going to turn into. We're kind of working on it. Thinking about calling it digital memories, but that's a working thing as well. So we'll figure that out. But my name's Jacob, and with me is my brother Justin. And what we wanted to do is kind of just talk about growing up in the 80s and the 90s and video games and sci-fi or toys or just any of the stuff that we loved as a kid, and really honestly we still love right now. We're just big kids, and we love that still. And so just short little bio, I guess, or whatever. Hey, I'm 45 years old, soon to be 46, got a couple kids. Yeah, we're getting old. We are getting old. A couple kids, wife that I love, so that's all great. And my kids like video games too, so that's really cool. Don't have as much time for it as I would like to, but that's me. Justin, let them know what's going on with you.
Well, I'm younger than he is, like he said. He's my big brother of 5 years older than me. I also am married and have a wonderful kid. And yes, I am still a big kid myself. Like playing games, have other YouTube channel type stuff that we try to do. So anyway, it's all great and fun. And yes, we want to talk about our memories, mainly gaming, but like Jacob said, anything. I guess anything, and it doesn't even have to be old memories, right? We're going to talk about new stuff too. Anything that could be new memories in our gaming sci-fi nerd space. We could broach the subject.
Yeah, absolutely. So we thought in this premiere episode, if you want to call it, we would just talk about how we got started in gaming, our early memories of a video game and gaming, and how that's kind of evolved up through the time until we get to the point that we are now. So we kind of discussed this the other day. We were trying to figure out what we're going to talk about this in this show, but for me at least, anyways, I think that the Atari 5200 is one of my earliest memories. My dad had purchased that. If I remember the story right, he got it at Target, and I think it was like 500 something dollars, which is a lot of money in whenever that was exactly,
It's a lot
1982
of
or something like that.
it's a lot of money right now.
Yeah,
People complain
right.
left and right if a system costs $500 right now.
Well, people are going nuts about the idea that the Switch 2 might be 499, so
That
yeah,
that sounds expensive to me.
right, exactly. So it definitely was expensive then, for sure. So yeah, we had that. We had some games. I remember my father playing Frogger and Breakout, Super Breakout. So that's kind of
So I
that's
was gonna
that's the
say,
beginning. That's the beginning. What about you, Justin?
so you have that. Hold on, you have that memory, but I mean, I don't have that memory obviously because I would have been if I was even alive yet. Um,
I don't think you were.
But the question I have is, how much did he even play it? How much did he really play it? Because our dad. Let's tell you guys, our dad did not play games really after that. When we played games growing up, he did not play games. So did he play it that much?
I
$500 is
had
a lot for him
Yeah,
not to
and
play.
right, and I honestly have no memories of him playing except for I have this very vague early memory of when we got it and he hooked it up and he played some Frogger and Breakout. Besides that, I have no memories of him
See,
playing like at all. The only other memory I have of the man playing video games really at all is I don't know if you remember on the NES, he played some Double Dribble with us like one time, one night randomly, and he kind of hogged the Game Boy for a little while with Tetris when we
double
first got
dribble's
that.
terrible, so I don't blame him for only playing
Double
once.
Dribble.
But I remember I got him to play the Nintendo 64 briefly. I got him and our mom to play Wave Race or something like that for like one race, but they just ran into the invisible wall the whole time and laughed and couldn't control it. But anyway, this sounds to me like maybe our dad is a little bit like us and has FOMO, and he had to buy an Atari back in the day because maybe everybody else was buying it
And they
because
were.
that's a lot of money to not play it.
Well, maybe it didn't help anything that the first one he bought was that Atari system crashed and burned. It was one of the worst ones ever released. I mean, the controllers were terrible for it, and it didn't help that our sister buttered those controllers like a piece of toast. She literally, for some reason, at the age of like 3, got a butter knife and got the butter out of the refrigerator and buttered the Atari controllers like a piece of bread.
3-year-olds are stupid. They do stupid things. Did she get in trouble? Do you remember?
Well, I'm
Did,
sure
did the
she did.
controllers work after that? Did he? Clean
Well, they
them?
had problems. He did. He took them apart. He had to take them apart and clean them, and I remember him making comments like, you ruined them. 'Em. They're never gonna work right again," you know? And,
Oh, the old butter on the controllers
well, I think
trick.
she stuck something in the VCR once too. I
Mm.
just don't understand why kids' obsession with sticking something inside the VCR slot. I guess that's not a problem now.
No.
Uh,
No, it's
our
not.
our kids don't know what that is, but
So, I mean, I remember us having an Atari, but like you said, it probably wasn't that first one, right? Because we had a second Atari.
so we
What
got the Atari 2600 later.
I say, I
I
have
think
vague memories, like
mom
you said, of like pole position
yeah,
and what was it? Haunted Mansion is what it called,
yeah, with
or
the
Monster
eyeballs that
something.
that go
Yeah,
around Haunted
I
Mansion.
have like a super vague memory of that, but I don't even know. I don't know if I remember playing it now because did they both have the same controller? Honestly, I don't even remember like the Atari situation.
No.
I feel like the one we had or that I played was the little thin joystick with like
Yeah.
two orange buttons.
Yep,
Is that accurate?
that's the Atari 2600, yeah. The 5200 actually had a much bigger arcade-like joystick. It was actually analog, which we kinda wouldn't see again until the Nintendo 64, but it had a keypad on it, and there were these overlays that came in the box. And so you look at the controller, it just had a keypad 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or whatever. But a game could come with an overlay that you stuck on the controller, and then then all of a sudden the number one button becomes fire, or whatever, or map and different things. So it
Gotcha.
was ahead of its time in a lot of ways. So we didn't have anything like that. There's a lot of potential there, but they stupidly, I mean, I don't know. I just don't have a good answer for why the controller was so bad and why they couldn't have done another one, uh, and it was more powerful than the 2600, but it wasn't backwards compatible, I don't think. And I should probably check on that. I could be wrong, but I don't think it was backwards compatible. And so a lot of people were kind of angry about that. They'd spent all the money on the 2600 games, but no, you're right about 2600. So yeah, mom bought it at a yard sale, I think, and we had. I don't know. She got a bunch of games with it. There was the crappy Pac-Man. If anyone's played Atari Pac-Man, it is not a substitute at all. We had ET, which is considered one of the worst games ever made.
We
We
should have
had
kept
it,
it. Yeah, but
you know.
I mean,
I might have it right now.
it's a history piece. We need it now.
I have that Atari here at the house.
Stole that Atari.
I
Not yours. Stole it from our parents.
I took it. Yeah, just like my, second gen, NES that belongs to our sister. It's here at my house. She likes to bring that up every
You mean
once in a
like
while. The
the
top
thin
loader.
one?
Yeah, the
But
top loader.
you have the front loader one too, don't you? But
I
not
do, I
ours.
do. It's
It's not
not
our
ours,
original.
no. No, I don't know what happened to it, to be honest. I'm not sure what happened to our original.
You s and steal my Sega Genesis too, did you?
I did not. No,
Honestly,
I don't have your
I don't
Genesis.
know
I
what I
don't
did with
know.
my Genesis. Do you
I
remember what I
have my Super Nintendo and my 64 and my Dreamcast and my GameCube and my Wii. I don't have my Wii U, actually. I sold it.
See, that's the sad part. As much as we call this digital memories, like I am the person that has thrown away all my crap. I don't have any of that old stuff anymore, and I'm always torn between it. Like I'm always torn between I'm going to hold these things forever. I'm going to have them, have these memories, and then years into it, I'm like, why do I have all this stuff in here that I'm never going to use again? And then I throw it all out, and then a year later, I'm like, oh, why did I do that? I mean, I would. There's part of me that would kill. I don't have the physical space for it. But there's part of me that would kill to have all that stuff that we had before, like in mint condition. It didn't take care of
Right,
anything either. It threw crap around, especially nowadays because I miss physical. I love the idea of having my physical games. This is going off on a tangent, but I love the convenience of our digital games. So I'm always torn on that too. If I was a wealthy billionaire, I'd just buy both. I'd have the
right.
physical one sitting there on a nice display, and then play
Well,
the digital.
it's nice not to switch games, obviously, but it's really nice with a system like the Switch where you might take it with you, and you're just like, "Well, I've
Well,
got all these
yeah,
games
of
loaded up."
course. Well, anyway, back on track. So where our gaming memories converge, I'm sure, is with our first NES, right?
Right, right. And
So
we've actually
you're the
maybe
older
one.
one. You remember where when we get it.
So we got it in Christmas of '87 is when we got the NES. So not right when it came out. I got to play it a lot at some of my friends' houses, and of course was dying to get it. My biggest memory about getting the NES, I don't see if you remember this at all, but is Christmas that year fell on a Sunday, and mom made us go to church. and
Ooh,
I just wanted to stay home and play the NES. I didn't wanna go to church that morning, that's for sure.
nope.
But we actually have I mean,
You got to
someday
open
maybe
it
we'll
before church?
we did. We opened
You
it because I
so
knew I
you
was
opened
getting
it and
it.
you knew you had it and then just had to leave?
Well, not right then.
Sounds like torture.
We, we did get to hook it up and play it a little bit,
Well, you're probably up
before
at like 5 AM.
Right, I'm sure we were. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it says the time on the video because we have a video recording. Maybe we'll share it someday. We actually have a video recording of us getting our NES and
Do we?
me,
Is that in
yeah,
the
one of
ones
the
you shared with me recently?
yes, yes.
Okay. I
I
didn't see that one, I
digitized our
guess.
Christmas stuff, and I gave it to Justin. I'm pretty sure it should have been, but we definitely have it. And it's video of me grabbing the Atari and kinda, like, tossing it. And
Get this piece of junk out of the
I
way.
go, "Get out of here." And
No,
dad's like, "Hey, now, calm
nobody wants
down."
Atari anymore.
And then dad was getting it all hooked up, and then it shows me, embarrassingly, it shows me, telling dad, "Hey, dad, watch this," and then I like die right off the bat, you know.
Of course. Now,
Yeah,
is that all we had on day one was Mario?
yep.
I mean,
Mario Duck Hunt. It was the Mario Duck Hunt cartridge, so we had
see,
the
am I
game,
the only
the
one who
gun.
misses the light gun games? I miss light gun games, man.
No, I do
Not just
too.
Duck Hunt. You know, we can
And
get there. We can get there in later episodes, man. But remember my like the Sega CD? I had like Lethal Enforcers and all that stuff.
was there some kind of Wild West game or something you had on your Sega CD that you shot people?
I don't think I had it, but
That was not Lethal
Lethal
Enforcers?
Enforcers 2 was like a Wild West, I think.
Oh,
Whereas the
alright,
first
yeah.
one was like, I don't know, cop, FBI type stuff. But the I was gonna mention to you the other day too, Battle Clash, man. Remember that? The Super
Oh,
Scope?
yeah.
That was awesome. We'll get there. We'll get there. That's a whole nother
I
episode.
love that.
That's a whole nother
Well,
episode.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
miss light
Well,
gun games, man.
we can get into the fact that I pre-ordered it from a Kickstarter, and they came, like, 8 months later, and they were supposed to, but they're light guns. It's supposed to work with my arcade machine where we
Oh,
could
okay.
play, and I have never got them hooked up. They're still in the box. So, gonna have
Loser.
to get that done
So
and yeah.
Mario, we had Mario and we had Duck Hunt. So we'll loop back around to Mario real quick in a minute. But the only other game I remember very early from those days is my Sesame Street game. I had a Sesame Street game, right? And the
Yep,
only,
yep.
at least I guess it was mine. It was meant for me. And the only memory I have of it, I mean, I remember playing it in general or whatever, but the specific memories I have of that Sesame Street game is like Grover and counting aliens. There was like space
Mhm,
aliens and used Grover to
mhm.
count them or something like that. And then there was another one, maybe had multiple characters, but like shapes. Like you use like the circle and the triangle to like make the same shape as
Right.
I don't know, Big Bird or something. I don't know. That's all I
Well,
remember from that game.
it was specifically Sesame Street 1, 2, 3, and, something else funny about this, I don't know if you know this, I think so as we'll get into in future episodes, we didn't like surprises at Christmas, we went searching for our gifts, but I think my first instance of
We
doing something
we
early yeah, yeah, I'm the ringleader. My first instance of doing something we shouldn't supposed to be was mom actually had that game. It was on top of the refrigerator, and me and, I guess it would have had to either been like Heath or like Nathan Clark or something like that. We got it out in the middle of the night and we like played it. Why were we anxious to play Sesame Street 1, 2, 3? I
because it
couldn't
was a
tell you,
new game, man. It's a new Nintendo game.
but
Back then, even if it was Sesame Street, it was still a new Nintendo game.
and I don't think I could tell you what the second game was. I mean, I have a lot of memories of a lot of
Maybe it
Nintendo
was
games,
Sesame
but
Street.
maybe. But
I mean,
I don't think so.
literally, that's the games I remember playing. Those first three games. That's my only memories of NES games up until our infamous Faxanadu and Ninja Turtles situation, which we're not going to talk about today because that's a whole nother subject for a whole nother video. It'll take up too much time. But so Mario. Well, I mean, let's talk about Mario for a minute. Like, I don't know. I mean, obviously Mario took the world by storm, right?
Jump down that hole.
Yeah.
You get an
See,
extra life.
that's the
It's a warp
crap that
zone.
older brothers do to little brothers when we're playing two players. He's like, "Oh, there's a secret life. Just jump down that hole right there." Yeah, older brothers are mean.
Yeah, we are,
So I mean, Mario like took off. I mean, I don't know. I was still really young. Obviously, I mean, I've played Mario like 100 times since then, uh, as I've gotten older on different platforms and everything. But why? I don't know. And to you, like, why is Mario so? I don't know. Why did the first Mario take off like it did compared to other crap that had already came out?
Well, It wasn't necessarily the first game of its kind, but I think it was most people's first game that they got a hold of just because it got popular so quick of that type. Because before that, we had Pac-Man and we had like I have memories of the arcade and there being Pac-Man and Donkey Kong and Dig Dug, but there wasn't anything like Mario really.
Well, there
Uh,
was a
you
Super
know,
Mario Brothers arcade machine, right? Like,
yeah, but
I
that
mean, we even
came
had one at
after
our
the
local bowling alley,
yes, and that came after the
right?
NES game though. That's part of the
Okay.
Versus series. Um, But yeah, I think people just hadn't seen something like that. It really is funny because I think the NES and Mario in particular, they went viral before we had viral, to be
Yeah.
to be honest, because
Word of
the
mouth.
funny thing is most everyone had one. You go back to 1986, 87, 88, everybody got one, but most of those people didn't go on to be gamers. And you would go to those people's houses later when you were older. And maybe it was your girlfriend even or something. You go and be like, "Oh, you guys got a Nintendo." And there's the NES with Mario down under the TV that's been there since 87 and they haven't touched it.
Right.
They played it when everyone else played it and it came out. But I do think it was just something new. It was popular. You had to be a part of it. You were like, I got to see what that is. And it was just different. The fact that, there was multiple levels, multiple worlds, multiple levels per world. And you could beat it too. That was another thing. Uh, most Atari games, most arcade games didn't have endings. They went on forever,
Scorekeepers. Yeah. It's just about
right.
getting the high score.
For us and for the operators, about getting the most quarters they can get from you
Absolutely.
because they were cheap. They were cheap. They got
Absolutely.
you.
Well, and I mean, obviously, like you said, there was arcade games. So I mean, but at home, I think Mario probably had, was graphically impressive compared to the Atari games before that, and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I guess for people at that time, it was like bringing the arcade into the living room as opposed to, the like we talked about earlier, the cheap Atari crap like ET and things like that that had been in there. Well, and then there's multiplayer component too, right? I mean, it came obviously that was back in the day when we got all the goodies up front. So you bought the system and you got a game with it or two games and two controllers, right?
Yep.
Both controllers
And
came
the
with it
light gun. You
and the
got
gun.
2 controllers, and it
That's a
didn't
heck of
start
a
out that
deal.
it didn't start out that way. Our friend, Heath growing up, he got the version with Rob the Robot, and it came with
Ew.
Gyromite. Yeah, I mean, didn't work.
Gyromite.
We tried to use that thing so many times,
What?
and
I don't know. We might have to dedicate a whole episode to that because that
it was junk.
was the Rob the Robot. Could another person just play and do his part right? Like
Yes,
all he
and that's
did
what
was
we
he like mechanically pressed the controller button for you, right?
basically, yes.
Did he use
Yeah.
vision to see?
Yeah, it was kinda like the light how the light gun works. His eyes were the same sort of like sensors and when things happened on the screen, but it was so slow. Like he'd move and he picked up this disc and then dropped it and you can't really see my hands. But
Yeah,
and
right.
he dropped it down and yeah. So when we wanted to be like, "Oh, can we beat this Gyromat game?" Like, yeah, one of us took the second controller. And there's only like 2 or 3 games. I think maybe only 2 games in America, 3 games in Japan or something like that. If we ever have anybody in the comments, they're gonna tell me I'm wrong on the number of games, but Nintendo's great about that sort of thing. I mean, they're innovators. They came a lot of stuff, though, that didn't really get supported, and there's only 1 or 2 games. There was 3D glasses for the NES,
Yeah, I remember that.
actually.
Was it a crappy red and blue game? I mean, if you weren't wearing the glasses, because it's got to be the right color scheme, right? You
Well,
can't
there's a
just put
3D
them on
mode.
and
So well, yeah, that's what they did, the red and green type stuff or whatever, but like Rad Racer. Rad Racer was one of them, and I think you had to hold A and start or some I don't know. We have to look it up. Like I said, one day when we have actual fans, they'll tell us how wrong we are about these facts, but it was something
we're
like
not
that.
we're not here to be factual, all right? We're not professional reviewers. We're
Right, right. We're just
fun guys. This is
going on
fun.
the memories of being
So
old. But yeah, like you said, it's just, it was
you
different.
got two,
The
and
graphics,
and you had two controllers. So I mean,
right.
like we just said, it was a multiplayer game. Now, obviously, it's not like today where we get to play at the same time. In fact, one of our famously fun memories we like to talk about is when we sat down to play two players one time, and of course Jacob was Mario because he's the older brother, and would just punch me if he wanted to be the winner. So anyway, picked Mario. He played through the entire game without dying and beat the game, and then it just reverted back to me as Luigi at the start, and I was like, even at whatever 3 or 4 years old, I was like, nah, this isn't worth it. I just turned it off. I was like, I'm not playing through now. So, but you had that two-player aspect, so I guess you could play together and do all that stuff. And of course, back in the day, Luigi, that game at least, he was no different than Mario. He was just green
Right. Just
instead.
different color palette.
It was something else we talked about recently privately, was the fact that when we play a lot of these old games, we don't remember how we learned anything or whatever. Like, like it feels like intuitively we always know the warp zones. And like we joked earlier, about you telling me, oh, just jump down that hole and you get an extra life. But how did we figure all that crap out? How do we know about the warp zone?
And I don't know.
You
I
don't
don't
remember?
know.
We
It
don't
feels
know.
like I
Nobody
always
knows.
knew. It feels like I always knew about, yeah, about the warp, especially the first warp zone and, World 1 too. Somebody had to have showed it to me. I mean,
Well, that was a
because
little more obvious.
I had friends that had an NES that I went to their houses and played it some before I got mine. So I'm sure somebody showed me. I just don't remember. It just feels like and like you said, there's so many games like that. Zelda, I don't remember who showed me where all the worlds are. And think about that. We love Breath of the Wild. We go everywhere. We don't know where anything's at. You go to anything, but like Zelda 1 on the NES, it tells you nothing. Nothing.
Yeah, he tells you like good luck, doesn't he? Like,
I mean,
here's
yeah,
this sword.
but how? I mean, and
Get
and
out
all of a sudden
there.
you can stumble across the first world, or the
Well, I mean,
second world.
finding some of the dungeons is a little bit easier, but
But
like,
I'm saying, but later on, it's not though. Like World 8, so you can burn a bush.
well, right, but that's what I
You
mean.
know,
That's what I was going to say. Any of the secrets, just in general, like, here's it's a secret to everybody, and they give you some coins. It's just some random bush on a screen of 120 bushes,
right, right.
and annoyingly, if it's that stupid red or the blue candle, you only use it one time, and you got to leave the screen and come back, and it's like, oh, of course, back then, you could call Nintendo Power or the hotlines. See, we were born. Well, we were born in the wrong time in general, right? If we were a little bit older, we could have worked at a hotline and opened a
Yeah,
folder and gave people game hints. Or if we were born anytime recently, now there's esports, games, played games at your high school for a team. When we played games, we were just nerds. That's it. Some people made
yep.
fun of you. Some people didn't.
We never called.
Whatever.
We never called Nintendo hotline, right? No, I don't think so. Not
I
here.
don't
Not at our house.
I don't remember
Not
ever
at our
calling the
house that I
Nintendo
know.
hotline. I called one time far into the future playing the PlayStation. I called someone. I don't know if it was Sony. I don't know who it even was, to be honest, but they had a hotline and I called them for Final Fantasy VII because the official Final Fantasy VII strategy guide had the wrong instructions to get a certain item. And I was like, this isn't working. So I called the guy and he walked me through it and I got it. Of course, I had to ask my mother for permission
I
to
Yeah, I
call.
don't remember. I don't remember that at all. I mean, I was at my
But
friend's
but we
house.
had Nintendo Power Magazine.
Right. I had that right off the bat. I wish I still had them. I had the very first issue,
You got
and
the
so
first issue like when it started in the
yeah,
mail?
with Mario and Wart, it had Mario 2 on the cover. Yeah, I
I
had that.
remember that being the first issue, but I guess I didn't know that
Well,
you were like a subscriber from day one.
I was lucky that I was because it's one of those rare random times that our mother was just she saw it somewhere and thought like Jacob would like this, and
There you go.
she
Good mom.
subscribed. She subscribed. No, we joke that way. We joke, and you'll hear us joke about our mother because our mother is she doesn't recognize brands and things of sort, and so you'd be like, oh, I need a new Nintendo controller, mom, and she would get the most third party generic one because she'd be like, well, this one's $10 cheaper.
It's the
And I
same.
actually
It's the same
yeah,
controller. It's
yeah,
not the
and I
same.
actually sent her one time to get a Sessi pad for the Super Nintendo, and our local, Software Etcetera, as it was called then. Some of you guys might not know that. We call them GameStops now, but,
Was it the same as Babbage's? Did they
no, those
merge?
are different companies. They merged.
Okay.
There was actually at one point in time, there was Software Etcetera, there was Babbage's, then there was Electronics Boutique, and there was GameStop, and then there was also Funko Land, and those are all the same company
We
now,
also bought games at KB
you know?
Toys.
Right, but I called this store and said, "Hey,
My
my
mom's
mother's
coming.
gonna be coming. My mom's coming to the store, and
You'll
I've
know
told
her.
her I want the Super Accessi Pad. Do not if you see a lady come up with a generic Super Nintendo controller, you ask her who she is."
like they like
Oh,
like that employee cared at
I
all.
don't know what that employee thought. You see, and I worked. I was a
There's
manager for
like
Software Etcetera years later, and if someone would have told me that, I
no, they would
you
have
know
hung up, rolled their eyes, and be like Jesus.
right,
I
right. She
mean,
did
yeah,
the
we would
most
tell
right thing.
you're gonna see some woman come in there and she's gonna look lost. she's going to be a little bit just wandering around. And when she tries to buy the worst controller there, that's the cheapest, you make sure you force her to buy the most expensive controller. That's the best.
But occasionally she got the right controller. So occasionally, she got the right controller then. She got us Nintendo Power. She also she reserved Donkey Kong Country for me too. I didn't ask for that. She had seen, I don't know, she was out and about and saw, hey, this is the hot new thing. And she reserved it for me. That's the first game reservation, I guess. So yeah, no, we had a good mom. But
You mentioned something earlier that I wanted to touch on real quick. Like you talked about how honestly, I don't remember what you said. It was something about buying so many games or something like that. But my point is, it's funny when we talk about that because when you see statistics for like even gamers, just in general, they must be like the statistics must be so skewed by like the hardcore. I'm using that term kind of loosely, but hardcore gamers because, like you mentioned about someone had a Nintendo, but they've had it for 8 years and it only had Mario there, right? But there's so
right.
many other people that that even consider themselves gamers that have a system and they only own like 5 games, 4 games, 6 games, whatever. And I, without looking anything up, I think that's the average, right? For people that own a system, a lot of times, like less than 10 games is like what they actually buy and
Oh
own.
yeah,
And to me,
I'm
that's
sure.
crazy because every
I'm
system
pretty
I've ever had, I've probably had like 20 plus or something like
right.
that. I mean, nowadays you got a bajillion because of PlayStation Plus and Xbox Gold or whatever they call it now, and all Game Pass. You get all these free games. But back in the day, when every game you had to go to the store and physically buy it. Yeah, I knew so many people that only had like 3 games on their Nintendo or their Super
Well,
NES.
they were expensive. I mean, I, you know, I laugh at all the people getting crazy nuts about a game being 69.99 now, or the fact that there's even been rumors of them going to 79.99. But it's like I paid $75 for Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the Super Nintendo. I paid $90 for Killer Instinct Gold on the Nintendo 64. I mean, inflation wise,
It's probably a bad idea.
inflation wise, games have held out pretty good. But yeah, I mean, I haven't seen any statistics before. I've never read that, but it wouldn't surprise me. You just think about the friends that you had and most people and what they did, the same thing we did, obviously, is we asked for a game for Christmas and you asked for
Yeah.
your birthday. And you had those weird kids that some reason they got presents on Easter. I never understood that. We get we we
You
got
get presents on
candy.
Easter.
I remember my friend Nathan got, like, I don't remember what game it was, but he just said, "Oh, I got this new game. I got it for Easter." And I was like, "What? We give Nintendo games at Easter?"
God doesn't care about Nintendo games.
Maybe it was one of those Bible games. Then
Ew, those are
maybe we could
awful. Noah's
Super
Ark.
Noah's Ark or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
What were we talking about?
Oh
I
God.
forgot.
Oh, this podcast is falling apart already. We don't even know what we're talking about.
Then the other big thing, from the NES, if you remember, is we traded with our friends.
Yeah.
They borrowed your
Borrowed.
game.
You borrowed.
You bar you
You didn't
borrowed someone's
trade.
game. You hope they didn't keep it forever or lose it.
Ooh.
I don't think we ever
That's one of
had that
my
happen to us, but
the only game I remember NES wise borrowing that I just loved was and I don't even know if you know this. You borrowed Mike Tyson's Punch Out from I
from
believe Nathan.
probably, yeah.
And you were supposed to return it one day, but I was staying home from school. I don't know if it's because I didn't go to school yet or something like that. And I hid that game so that you couldn't return it. And you were looking for it, I think. If my memory serves me, I would have been really young. You were like, I can't find it. I was like, I don't know. I haven't seen it. And I had already slid it under something. And then you left for school and I got that baby out and popped it in and started punching some people in the face. Man, I love Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Oh, yeah,
I wish they'd make another one right now.
and I could play
In
it
fact,
anytime.
I should just make it. I should just make some kind of Punch Out game. That's our business. Let's make a Punch Out game. People
Everybody
love
wants
Punch
it.
Out.
Where is it? I
People
guess
love
I
Punch
don't
Out.
know. I don't know how well the one did on Wii, which was a good game, but
I I
I don't know
remember
how well it
enjoying it.
did, but yeah, I would love a new one. That Super Punch-Out, I
You've
just
gone
had
dark.
one of my lights just died on me. It's
Oh
battery
no.
powered,
Oh, this
and,
episode is for the dogs, man. The
yeah, we've
production
all said
values
the
are just
production value is
downhill.
going it's going down. Well, Super Punch-Out, love that. In fact, I probably like it better than Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Well, it's obviously they did some stuff for improvements, but I don't know. I think the original might still be kind of my favorite. But anyway, neither here nor there. Yes, you borrowed games from people. You and what we talked about earlier when I talked about Mario and the secrets, it's like that. I mean, it was word of mouth, right? You went and you talked to people. Oh, I found this jump down the third pipe, on the level. And because that was the big thing. I was so hyped about Nintendo, man. I remember, and I was in kindergarten. I just couldn't shut up about Nintendo. And me and a kid named David, he was my best friend, I guess, and besides another kid named Justin who shared my name. And I remember he got a Nintendo. Like we had one first, and then he got one maybe for Christmas or something. And he was like, "Oh, Justin, I got a Nintendo," and we wouldn't stop talking about it. And Mrs. Williams, Justin, and damn it, be quiet, lady. We're talking about important things here, okay? Nobody cares about tying their shoes. We're talking about Mario. So yeah, I mean, I was geeked. I'm still geeked. My wife, she loves now when I buy like a new system because the new game, like I said, I get digital. But when I buy a new system, she said I'm like a little kid because I still get on the floor and I tuck my legs under my butt and sit down on the ground and start rifling through the stuff.
Yeah, no, I still feel that way when I get a new thing and I open it up and I look at it and smell. Remember we used to smell
Smell.
the instruction booklet? The packaging
Mm,
had that smell to
fresh
it, you know?
plastic.
It smelled so good,
You don't get any of that
but
anymore. Even if you buy a physical game now, you get like, I mean, some of them don't even have a game. Some of them you buy physically, they still have a download code in them, which is kind of a
right.
sham. And then
Well,
two,
because someone might be buying a physical game because they don't have good internet to download in the first place.
that's a solid point. Then the second part is the game manuals, and that could be a whole episode on itself. But I miss game manuals, man. I had to have something to read in the bathroom when you were, before we
Yeah.
had phones. But game manuals, man, I miss those a
On the
lot.
way home, you
Oh
actually
yeah,
got a game that was not at Christmas time. Maybe you got another time. And you or even Christmas. I remember, your mom, you were with your mom when she bought it, so it wasn't going to be a surprise. But she's like, "You're not getting this till Christmas. It's going under the tree."
fat
And you said,
chance.
"Can I please have the instruction booklet so I'm going to read it on the way home. I'm going to go
I'm going
through
to
it cover
open
to
it
cover."
now so I can get the manual, but later I'm going to sneak it out of the
Right.
box and
Yep.
also play it.
Go get it and play
That's a
it.
whole nother.
That's
That's a whole nother
that's
thing.
coming.
So,
Do Go ahead.
oh no, you go ahead.
No.
I
Well,
defer to your age and wisdom.
I was just gonna say, do you feel like doesn't it feel like we had the NES forever? Like it just we had it for like a million years before the Super Nintendo came along.
Not to me, but I was younger
Right.
than you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it came along probably faster for me. But
You
I
were
do
three you
I
were
do
three and a
feel
half
like,
years old.
well, the next system, our Super NES and even our Sega Genesis, I do feel like that. What am I trying to say? That generation, that console generation, lasted a long time. And then even the PlayStation. Like I feel like each of them, the PlayStation One, PlayStation Two, all those generations that I got like growing up, I feel like lasted a long time. Whereas now, I feel like I just got my PlayStation Five like last year, and it's like on year four or something or five even. I don't
Right.
even know. But of course that fits in with life in general, right? We're getting to be old men, and time flies now, like a whole year goes by before you know it. It's just like when you're a kid. Yeah, you felt like you had the Nintendo forever because the 3 months of summer felt like a whole year that you just did nothing
Right.
but got to play games.
It goes so much faster now. Obviously, the Nintendo had a lot of years between when it came out and the Super Nintendo came out. But from when we had it, like I said, we got it in Christmas of '87, and I got the Super Nintendo in the Christmas of '91, I think,
It's
when
still
it
a
came
solid
out.
4 years.
So
If my
that's 4
calculations are
years. So
correct,
basically 4
4
years.
years.
But then we had the Super Nintendo from then when I was in 7th grade all the way until 6th grade when the Nintendo 64 came out, uh, and I bought that. So that was a little bit longer of
You
a
just said
time there,
seventh
but
grade. You didn't get the Nintendo 64 when you were in seventh grade.
no, the Super Nintendo in 7th grade, and then Nintendo 64, yeah, when I was a senior is what I meant to
Okay.
say. So, I mean, that was about 6 years or so, give or
And
take.
that's pretty normal, I think, for most of the generations. But the
Oh, yeah,
time just feels longer when you're young.
Nintendo's slapping us in the face right now. 8 years. Come on, I want my Switch 2. I
It's
want it
coming.
now.
It's coming.
But,
We'll cover that. We'll cover that later.
going back to our early memories there, do you remember at first we had the Nintendo hooked up to a black and white TV?
I don't remember that.
Because we obviously hooked it up to the living room TV at first, but then I was like, I wanted to play, and our father was a TV guy. He watched TV, and so
King of the Castle. What he
right,
wanted to
I had to turn
watch,
it
he was
off.
on the
Had
TV.
had had to turn it off when he came in, and he didn't care, middle of the level, and we had no such thing. I mean, if you could even save a game back then, you certainly had to go to a save point or write down the password or something. He had this old 13-inch black and white TV that he had at college, and so he gave it to me, and I put that in my bedroom, and I had it hooked up to that, and that lasted about a year because in 5th grade, I got a color TV for Christmas.
Still 13 inches.
Yeah, it was still 13 inches.
And the only 13-inch TV that we had for a long time.
We also didn't play it a whole lot then. We were annoyed by the black and white TV, but also, our father had just kinda finished up part upstairs of our house, and there wasn't really heat up there yet. We had a wood stove, and the
School.
the wood stove heat would kinda radiate up there, but we didn't have a furnace yet running any kind of, like, heat duct, so it was cold, so we were going up there and had, like, a blanket, like, around me and was, like, trying to play, Mario on the black and white TV, and I was like, "Okay, I don't wanna do this."
We're gonna be too old for this audience. People are gonna be like, these guys, they didn't have electricity. I don't know how they're even playing. No heat in the house, no pooping outside when they were playing games. Now, did the original one come with like a was it a regular RF adapter, like a coaxial adapter, or was it
Uh,
like the old school like two metal prongs that you had to
no.
like screw in?
It came with an RF adapter. Although our TV, that black and white TV, well, and our Zenith downstairs, in the living room, we had to have an adapter.
Yeah.
So we had to have the two-prong thing screw onto
Ah,
the back of the television, and then the RF adapter screwed into that.
see, you kids don't know what you're missing.
But it didn't have like the Atari. The Atari had like what you said. The Atari had the two prongs, and it had the switch on it, said TV and video game, and you had to slide that
Right.
slider back and forth,
You had
depending
these
on,
stupid boxes you had to plug in, guys, and you had to be on channel 3 or channel 4 or whatever. It's like the input. The bane of all old people back then was the input. Oh, I can't get to TV. It's not working. Did you hit the input? Oh, yeah, the input. It's like, how could you
right.
forget? It's input.
Just
It's
had channel
always
3
input.
then.
It's always input.
And he had the volume, remember? The volume was turned really loud up on your video game probably, and when you turned it off, you know,
Static. Yeah, I
because you were
remember
on
that.
channel 3.
I
You were on
remember
channel
that.
3. Or the TV, I don't know if you remember this either. A lot of those old TVs that just when they started to become a little bit digital, you didn't have to turn a knob. When they lost power and came back on, they would default to channel 3. And so if you lost electricity, and you had the volume turned up. And just say when we grew up in the country, and we lost power a lot when we were kids. And so you would be watching TV, electricity would go out, and so the volume was turned up way loud from your TV show, and then you gave up on the electricity, so you went to bed, and then at like 2 in the morning, you were scared to death of the TV coming on, defaulting to channel 3, and just
They're here.
right,
It's
poltergeist.
like,
Exactly. Spring up out of bed, heart beating really fast.
Jesus.
But yeah, no, it came with RF, you got the RF. I don't think it came with RCA cables. You remember the first NES actually had a composite hookup on the side of it.
No, I don't
You
remember
could
that it
actually
did.
but it was crazy that it did because almost nobody had a television at that point in time to take advantage of something like that. I mean, sure, the game testers were using those kind of hookups, on their really nice Sony TVs that everybody tries to get a hold of now. They have, like, the perfect color profiles and all
Yeah, you
that.
gotta have the old CRTs, yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I don't think it came with those, but it had the RF, 2 controllers, gun, like you said earlier. Where's our stuff now,
Yeah, you got
you
nothing.
know? They
You
don't wanna
buy
give
a
you a power cord
five
anymore.
hundred dollars system, you get 1, controller, yeah, you get the power cord and a little quick start
Well,
guide. That's about
maybe we
it.
get the power cord, we may not get the actual end of it. Because
Well,
nowadays, like, "Oh, we've given you enough pucks for
video
USB,"
ga
so
the video game systems usually are still good, but yeah, you're right. I mean, Apple's done, like, you're not giving any more bricks out. You can have this little tiny cable, you gotta find something to
we've
plug it into.
we've given you enough. Yeah, it's a shame. I guess, the Switch, people kind of felt like we got 2 controllers in since you could take the Joy Cons off and hold that tiny thing in your head if you're a child.
I was gonna say these hands are too big, man, and I just can't.
Oh,
It's so
dude.
small. I can't do it. Well, I think we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah, so, yeah, guys, we have fun talking about this stuff. We kinda got scattered a little bit, but we're gonna get better. We're gonna learn how to focus.
Maybe,
Maybe. Yeah,
maybe
exact we're not good at that because we could
this
just
might be
talk all
the
day.
might literally be the only episode that ever gets made. We'll have to see. We have to
Hopefully
rein it
not.
in.
We wanna bring our friends on and talk because we have such great memories. Everyone does, it doesn't matter when you started with gaming, everyone's got great memories, playing with friends and doing different things. And like I said, luckily we're old enough that we were almost there from the beginning, just a little bit before me. I was born in '79, so I just, right there, and Justin just a couple years after that. So we've watched this. It's crazy that we how we watched this change from the early 80s all the way up until today. So there's a lot to talk about. But if you're out there and you actually listen to this, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Leave us some
Yeah,
comments below.
definitely. Thank you guys. Appreciate you listening. We'll be back with more for sure. See ya.
Bye.